Hi, I'm Paul.
And I'm Tiffany.
To some, we could be called career wizards.
And to others, sometimes we seem like therapists. However, we definitely are not.
But for you, we are the co hosts of the Career Boosters podcast.
In case competitions, you have this very complex um, solution to a very complex problem. But your role now is to take 10 minutes with your team and present us as, a solution, a story from start to end, from acquisition to implementation of this solution, and make it so that everybody understands.
Hello and welcome to the Career Boosters podcast, season 2, episode, get those fingers ready, Tiffany, episode 8.
Oh, I was wrong. And I'm also going to
Way
run
to
out
go.
of fingers soon.
My goodness gracious. We're going to have to use toes soon, and then it's going to
Oh
be
my
very
God.
awkward. So this is episode 45 of our podcast. I was doing the calculations this morning. My simple brain with simple math made it to 45. So that's kind of crazy. It's been really fun and it's been great. And there's so much more to come. So we look forward to sharing more stuff with the Career Boosters podcast groupies, if we call them that. Today, we welcome Aizle Bernardo to our show to talk about something that seems from kind of like an initial perspective, just kind of a business school thing, case competitions. What the heck are those things? Case competitions, simplest definition is students providing solutions to real world business problems. It's a way to learn through the experiential learning process, and it allows students, when they head into the working world, to be better problem solvers, collaborators, and strategic thinkers. Today, we're going to talk to Aizle about her journey doing case competitions and what she has learned about herself in this journey. Hang with us as we make the connection between this kind of primarily educational focused topic, but how you can make use of that in the real world of business. Aizle, thank you so much for joining us. And the first question we have is if you can tell us the story behind your decision to embark into an MBA.
Yes, of course. So first of all, hi everyone. Hello to all podcast listeners. Thank you for tuning in today. I'm Aizle, and I'm really excited to be here to share a bit about my story and my journey. So the decision to pursue an MBA came from really deeply rooted values in my family. Education has always been held in high regard in my family. My mom, a university lecturer, my auntie was an accountant, and my other auntie was a nurse. They were amazing, just examples of the power of continuous learning as I was growing up. They were always curious and evolving, and I admired how their knowledge created opportunities for them. And then alongside them, my grandparents were entrepreneurs. They were running their business with a strong philosophy on people first approach. So they treated their employees like families, which really left a long lasting impression on me. Like I was a little girl, and it just left this impression on me. I was really inspired. I saw firsthand how businesses could really uplift not just those in them or who do them, but also the surrounding community. It's really that blend of knowledge and compassion that really deeply shaped me. So when I started my master's in library and information studies, I found myself drawn to the idea of how information shapes societies and empowers individuals. But it wasn't until I introduced myself to the idea of combining it with an MBA that everything really clicked for me. Merging these two passions, the power of information and the strategic thinking of business, really has given me the tools not to only build a meaningful career for myself, but to also make a positive impact on the communities around me. Like really being able to leave the world a better place, a little better than like I entered it or how I found it. So yeah.
Give us just a little bit more information because you are what we call a dual degree student. So you just talked about a master's in library and information studies, so MLIS, combined with your MBA. It's a lot of letters. MBA Tell me about, because you've got a really unique take on information. So, MLIS, library studies. I think there's a bit of a stereotype out there on what that is. Tell me a little bit more about this intersection you see between library studies and business. And then we're going to link that to then why the heck are you interested in case competitions? But first, that intersection. Tell me more about it from your perspective.
Yeah, sure, of course. I can do that. So my MLIS stands for Master of Library and Information Study. So it's essentially the degree you would pursue if you want to become a librarian or an information professional. In simple terms, it's really about understanding how information is organized, managed, and really used to benefit society. Because when you organize and manage information, it's really so that people could retrieve it and use it. And then it really covers a lot of different things. It's a very wide field of study where it covers from everything from digital archiving to information access. Now, um, my personal reason for doing my MLIS is because information and knowledge, I feel they're very invaluable assets and things to have and people to have. So that's why I really pursued it, like being able to be an information professional. Now, when you combine that with an MBA, it really opens up this amazing intersection between managing knowledge and then applying it in a business context. I've always, like, as I mentioned, really information, knowledge, and valuable assets like wherever you go, especially today. It's a tech driven world, everything's changing. And really, what you get in front of your computer is information, knowledge, like everything that we absorb. So the MLIS gives me the skills to organize and make sense of vast amounts of information. What do they do? And then the MBA equips me with the strategic mindset to use that data to drive business decision and create solutions with the real world impact, like being able to take it out there. And together, these programs really help me bridge the gap between information management and business leadership, information and people, whether it's to data driven decisions or creating socially impactful solutions. And honestly, it's kind of like really my two passions just melded together, being and it allows me to go to the path that I want to, and it doesn't just make my career better, but I hope it also makes wherever I go a little bit better, with the skill sets that I have or offer.
So now that you talk a bit about those two, it starts to make a bit more sense, perhaps, why you are interested in case competitions and, more importantly, the skill set behind case competitions. So you've given us this really interesting Venn diagram, right? There's this overlap in the middle between MLIS, information and library studies, and MBA. In that overlap, tell us where case competitions fit in there for you and a little bit about them, perhaps, and what you've done with them.
Yeah, for sure. So as you mentioned, case competitions really are at the middle. Whenever I talk about like what do you do in case competitions, how do you prepare? I really take all of myself, like all of my learnings, from when I was in undergrad to my MLIS to my MBA, like all of those I integrate it because like case competitions are very different and they really vary quite a bit. Um, and you really need to be able to know what to activate and in what amounts depending on the type of on case competition, sorry. So as Paul mentioned, like they really involve solving real world business problems within that set time frame, and it's usually within a team where you come together, you analyze the case, you propose a solution, present it to a panel of judges or an audience. So my very, very first case competition was the MBA Games 2024. I had no prior experience. Like I had, and honestly, the very first PowerPoint deck I ever created was for a 5-minute tryout for the MBA Games 2024. So it was really nerve wracking. As you can see, I was like, I have no idea. And I'm going into this 5 minute, let's make the deck, let's try to come up with a solution. And then I got into the team and we placed second in the Accenture case competition. That was amazing, exhilarating, but don't get me wrong, it was challenging. I was nervous, but it was amazing. Later on, I then participated in the Net Impact Case competition at the Lead School of Business in Colorado. That one focused on biodiversity, and for that, my team placed third. Right now, I am preparing for MBA Games 2025 for January, and also the John Molson International Case Competition, which is a really exciting one.
Wow.
Both are very exciting.
Yeah, that's so cool. It sounds like, you're really stepping out of your comfort zone in this like zone of case competitions that not every MBA student does, right? And I think they are a little intimidating for students right off the bat. And when people think, oh my gosh, I have to talk in front of judges and be critiqued on kind of analysis that I'm doing and things like that. Did you have any experience with that before, or what helped you with that decision to get into case competitions?
um, I guess I go back to my undergrad. In my undergrad, I did an honors thesis for the last 2 years, like my third year and my fourth year. And really, I think that helped me in so many ways because what that involved was, I was doing a project for 2 years. I learned all the jargon, all the scientific terms, and I've just been doing this with so much of my time and effort put into it. And then your professors would tell you, okay, now explain your thesis in a minute. And the caveat is everybody has to understand it. You can't use all the jargons you've been using for the past 2 years. So I was like, oh gosh, like for me, still, those are the most challenging moments, really. Like because in case competitions, you have this very complex um, solution to a very complex problem. But your role now is to take 10 minutes with your team and present us as, a solution, a story from start to end, from acquisition to implementation of this solution, and make it so that everybody understands. And I think that really helped me, like being able to just self reflect. Okay, Aizle, what can we bring to this new endeavor? I know that you don't have direct experience in case competition, but what has Aizle done? Like, what would I think that I have done that could help? And I bring that to every case competition. I know that, and I just activate certain parts of it depending on what the context requires of me.
Mhm. So, for anybody who has maybe been hearing the words case comp over and over again and has maybe disassociated with that's not me or that's not the skills that I have, here's what I just heard you say, that you are building and working and mastering the arts of concision, so being concise, audience specific communication. How do you communicate to multiple different types of people? Teamwork, making quick decisions, analysis, persuasion, storytelling. These are all skill sets that are literally in every business role, and I would argue probably almost every role there is. Like these are human skills. These are professional human skills. Of those or others that I didn't list, which ones have you been enjoying the most learning and working on?
To the people who are tuning in, to start, I had no idea what case competition meant. Like I didn't even know what the word meant. I know what case means and I know what competition means, but together I had no idea. So if that brings comfort to anybody who's listening, that would be most wonderful thing that I've done today. Um, so I guess I really wanna tackle that. So for all the case competitions I have joined so far, there's always a tryout process involved. And every single time, that was the very first moment the professors that were judging ever saw me. So you can imagine that was the very first time they saw me presenting. They didn't know me in class, they didn't know my work ethic. So you have 5 minutes, you have 5 minutes to make an impression. And I've never met any of them, or I was yet to be in their class. And I knew that to stand out, I really had to lean into my strengths, what I do best, storytelling, strategic thinking, and being able to see both this big picture and like the really finer details. And I made it a point to ensure that those skills really shined and I really communicated because that's where I felt like I could make the biggest impact. And that would be the same would if you are in a competition. My focus was always being memorable on for what I do best, because when they
Mhm.
make a team, you will be memorable for what you do best in each of the sections, whether
Mhm.
that was presenting complex ideas or engaging the audience or thinking through solutions from multiple angles.
Mhm.
And for me, it wasn't about being perfect. Like I had technical difficulty with one of my tryouts, and I was so stressed about it. But then I really wanted to show them this is what I uniquely brought to the table. We had technical difficulties, but here is everything I've done, and here is what I can offer. And I got in. So
Mhm.
I really made an impression. From there,
Mhm.
I was fortunate enough to be selected, and I really want to emphasize that being you and
Mhm.
doing what you do best.
Yeah. And Aizle, you pinpoint something that Tiffany and I, for the 383rd time on this podcast, celebrating uniqueness and celebrating what makes us truly great is so, so important. And, I heard so many things there. I heard I prepared, I had my skills laid out. This is what I was going to bring to the table. That comes from introspection. So when we look at what are skills necessary to be successful in case competitions, there's all of the ones that Tiffany said, but it's also the introspection, it's the confidence, it's belief in self, and it's the I have knowledge of how I'm going to stand out. And you've been in two of our classes, and you do stand out from a way of storytelling, from the way of communication skills. Oh, and by the way, you have an understanding of how to gather information and put all of that information together and display it in a really a really amazing way. So you have these skills utilized in case competitions. At the end, this isn't kind of wanting to be amazing. It's about building skills. So what kind of skills have you learned about yourself as you have gone through these case competitions? So we have MBA games, we have MBA games, and we have John Molson coming up, right? And so what are the things that you've maybe learned about yourself?
Um, I've learned a lot of different things. I've learned a lot of skills. What comes to mind really are three things like adaptability, resilience, and creativity for the skills that I've learned. Um, and I really learned that at the start, I was such a harsh critic to myself. Like I am my own harshest critic. Like no one can really critic me the way I critic myself. And from and I didn't come from a business background. So I often wondered if I belonged in the same room as the people who have had years of experience either in school or in the workplace. And I've learned about myself that I can doubt myself, but also I will like put myself out there. And and the thing is that voice gets quieter. That voice of self-doubt gets quieter. I was like, yes, I have self-doubt, but it's another thing to put myself out there and actually put this into action. So when I did, like, that self-doubt goes away, it became, do I belong here? To I belong here. Like, can I do this? Do I belong here? And honestly, that's more invaluable than anything, because it really starts with me believing myself, and then that just grew. But at the start, it was really just me putting myself out there even without that belief in my mind.
I think you just so artfully proved and myth busted two things that we've talked about a few times on this podcast. One of them is that confidence comes from doing. We can't think ourselves into confidence. We have to try to do something without it, and it grows as we do it. And what I heard was, quietening that self-doubt in your mind had nothing to do with avoiding the arenas where you are higher risk, and it had everything to do with actually putting yourself in that arena where there was a risk of being critiqued and failing and your own voice getting louder. And that actually helped you quieten your voice. So thank you for displaying that. It's been a beautiful journey for me to watch, having coached you through some of this.
And yeah,
You've talked about, sorry, go ahead.
I have to thank you for that. Yeah, it's been a beautiful journey just
Mhm.
wrestling with myself in the mud. And yeah, it really
Mhm.
is trust the process. So
Yeah.
So you've talked about a lot about self, how you've done it, what you've learned, but you also mentioned that this is something you got to do as part of a team. And teamwork in high pressure, short amount of time, when there's a lot of ambiguity and confusion, can be a little challenging. Tell us a little bit about how teamwork shows up in case comps and what you've learned about teamwork.
oh gosh, yes. Like your team is very important in case competitions. Like it's everything. Like, you work together. I really learned that the best teams are diverse teams. In case competitions, it's crucial to have a mix of skills, analytical, creative, and leadership, because that would really complement each other during the competition, and you really need that. You learn that you can't do everything yourself, and the magic happens when each of the person of your team brings their strengths and what makes them uniquely them to the table. It really shows. However, as you mentioned, teamwork isn't always magical or smooth sailing. There will be conflicts and moments where things don't click and you would have friction. But I also learned that when we work through those challenges and we emerge on the other side, the team becomes stronger. Not just like how you analyze, but how you show up on stage. Because it really shows if the team is fragmented when you present or if they're unified and if you're there to support each other. And when we've had conflicts, it's really hard at that moment. Like, like emotions could be high and you're trying to come to a consensus. But after that, like I really learned to value my strengths, like while creating space for others to share. And that collective power that you bring is really what led us to success in our case competitions.
It's really great to, hear about teams and working with teams. And there's going to be great moments. There's going to be moments of celebration and just real joy, but there's also going to be like challenges and conflict potentially. And when we think about the world of work, we are always going to be working in teams, and we are always going to have great teams and sometimes teams that maybe don't bring the best out of everybody. But it's understanding how we fit within that team, and it's understanding what we can contribute to that team. When we think about your storytelling, I would add your kindness to it. I would imagine that Aizle is someone that brings a lot of like peace and space for other people. And when we have those things, it's a definition of team success, right? And I think every team, just like any relationship, really has conflict, but I think that we can maneuver through that and be better on the other side of that. So that's really wonderful that you kind of mentioned that, because the world of work is all about working with other people. So, the last question before Tiffany runs into the lightning round. What is your advice to someone considering doing something like a case competition and is concerned about their own skill set? What kind of pieces of advice do you have?
Yes. So I just want to start by saying that these are my own experiences and what worked for me. I hope that whoever is listening, you can take some of it and really curate it to uniquely fit your own story. So I would start, really my advice, as cliche as it may sound, I know it will sound cliche, is to believe in yourself and understand that everyone's path is different. There's no one size fits all for case competitions or for life. Really, the most important thing is you really take that first step, even if you don't feel fully prepared. Nobody feels fully prepared. This experiences really would teach you so much, not just about case competition or business, but about yourself. And the learning that happens outside of the classroom really is truly transformative. It is different. And just take the leap, let the process shape you, and most especially leverage your own strengths. And because even if you do not end up liking the experience, you will learn something about yourself, and that's the most invaluable thing that you could learn. So yeah.
See, and I don't think that sounded cliche at all. I think that was beautiful. And I'm not entirely sure there's someone that can't take a whole lot from that and, like you say, shape it for them. Thank you. All right, let's do a lightning round. You ready?
Yeah, as I'll ever be.
Right, you got to do it even if you're low on confidence, right? That's what we're here
Yes,
doing it.
yes.
All right. All right, 3 quick questions, 3 gut answers. What is it about your career that has given you the biggest boost?
The biggest boost really is the intersection between my MLIS and MBA. It aligns perfectly with my values and my principles as I live through them. I've gained confidence in doing this, and I love that I'm able to make something out of myself and make my communities hopefully a better place than when I entered them.
And what's one thing you wish you'd learned sooner?
I wish I learned sooner that self-doubt is normal. It's okay to have that voice in the head, and it doesn't have to hold you back. Like you can go out in the world even with those thoughts in your mind.
And service is something that is really important to Paul and I, and so we're always curious to hear, how is service going to show up for you in the coming week?
Yes, of course. This week I'm working hard in preparations for MBA games and net impact initiatives. my goal really is to ensure that everything runs smoothly for the students and the volunteers. If I do my part, I hope I can contribute to building a stronger and more connected community.
Lovely. All right, Paul, you're up. Paul's favorite question.
Aizle, just before we started recording, she was very worried about what this question was going to be. And it's not going to be scary in any way, Aizle. So myself and an MBA alum, Chris Otto, we did a golf class a week ago for MBA students. And Aizle showed up. She was participating through it all. And guess who made the longest, most accurate putt? It was Aizle. So, Aizle, my next question, or my Paul's random question to you is, when does your professional golf career start? And how are you going to manage to work in the business world and be a professional golfer at the same time?
Oh gosh, that's too funny. When you have the time to coach me on golf, then that's when it would start.
Okay.
And to handle it, the MBA in my first year, there were a lot of things to juggle. I'll get
Yeah.
the skills from that,
Yeah.
juggling both when
That
I
sounds
go.
great. Awesome. Thank you, Aizle. Great answer.
I can't wait to watch this. Paul's golf protege coming out of the MBA. I love it. Aizle, you and I have worked together pretty closely for the last year, and it has been such a joy to watch your journey. And it's not a journey that has been easy. And you've shared some of that, and you have shared some of the grit and the determination that you have in tackling a whole bunch of these skills that, within the context that we put around this of case comps, you had zero experience with, zero idea. And like you said, I know what cases are, what competitions are. I don't know what they mean when you put them together. So for those listening that are going to look at tackling something that they have no idea what it means, but they feel this desire to give it a try, you have given a masterclass on what that looks like. Your energy that you bring, the kindness that Paul talked about, your ability to story tell and hold space for other people around you makes you such an incredible, yes, case competition team member. Yep, you've certainly valuable and you're proving yourself in that arena. However, I would suggest it makes you a far bigger asset in a corporate and just human perspective. You are a joy to be around. You are a joy to coach. Thank you for sharing some of your light and your encouragement with us today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. All your kind words, really, I carried them. And so, yeah. No, I don't have any more words. My heart is just overwhelmed with positive emotions. And I was nervous coming onto the podcast, but really, I really enjoyed it. It's amazing. Thank you, both of you, for making the space for me right now. And yeah, I really appreciate both of you. Thank you.
And we appreciate you. Thanks, Aizle. All right, key takeaways from Aizle. And while there's a lot that stood out for me, she said a sentence that is just so core to what both of you and I teach and promote and live. But she tries to be memorable for what she does best. We all want to be memorable. We all want to be sticky. We all want to stand out. We teach that, but we often do it perhaps in the wrong area for the wrong thing. What we think will make us memorable. No, no, no. Be memorable for what you do best, but that requires you understanding what you do best. So that was a key takeaway for me.
When I thought about how we were going to integrate into a podcast about MBA students, case competitions is fairly natural because a lot of the MBA students do them, like whether it's having a class on case competitions or whether it's participating in internally case competitions or external ones. How does that relate to the business world? And I think it relates in so many ways to the business world. Businesses face challenges. You have to be creative in the way that you solve problems. You have to be able to articulate ideas clearly. You have to be able to work as part of a team, and you have to understand where you fit in an organization. And I think that, there were two little statements that she made that I'm just going to group them together because I really found beauty in the both of the statements. The first one was businesses can uplift communities. And I want, she talked about leaving the world in a better place. I think that we are all here to do that. As someone who has children wanting to have a great, place for them to grow up and experience life, I think businesses can do their part in making communities just really great. And then it was right at the end, she said self-doubt is normal. And we go through this on a very regular basis. And so I know these are two things, but I think that is so prevalent in today's kind of business society. We doubt ourselves all the time. And if you don't, God, well, all the more power to you. I'm very like that's great for you. But we deal with this every day is self-doubt. And I think that it's very powerful to just understand that it's normal. So.
And I love that our key takeaways actually kind of had nothing to do with the case comp proper, but everything to do about the skills, the human skills and the business skills that come from it. So very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. We're taking a week off next week. 'Tis Thanksgiving next week, and we're back the week after talking about stress management. Again, something I think is a shared human experience. So take care. See you in 2 weeks. Thanks for tuning in to the Career Boosters podcast. We hope you had a blast. Yeah, we know that's corny. Catch you next time, and remember to subscribe wherever you enjoy podcasts.